All right, so I want to welcome you to this section once again. Okay, so before we kickstart properly, I would like to start by asking how was yesterday class?
Yeah, I think I could understand everything you were explaining to me.
Okay,
Yeah, it was good.
all right. So all right, so it's a quick one just to quickly summarize some of the topics we looked at yesterday. Then before we look at new topics in this section, yesterday was a general introduction to website development, where I explain what is programming. I said programming is the art of writing code for the machine to carry out a specific task. And I also took my time to explain uh, some of the programming languages, particularly as they relate to web development, which is the program we are in for. So I also explained that a website is the collection of web pages, and these pages contain contents which are presented to the visitors of your website. So we also talk about different end of the website where I said 95% website, if not 100% website, has two ends. I refer to the first end as the front end and the second one as the back end. Then I also explain the languages that we need to learn for us to be able to build or develop each of these ends, but I emphasize more on the front end languages where I explain HTML for defining the website structure and publishing content via your website pages. I also talk about CSS, which is for decorating or determining the presentation of those HTML or the added content. Then I also talk about the JavaScript, which I said it is one of the most used programming language for adding interactivity to our website pages, content. And then we also started looking at, talk about IDE. That is where we got the Visual Studio Code from. It told us that the IDE is programming application which are used to write and execute codes. Hope you still understand, still remember all this. Hope you still
Yeah, I
remember. Good.
remember.
All right. Now, in this section, I'll be looking at HTML tags mastery. So what we did yesterday was just paraphrasing, trying to, explain few of them so that we can at least get a practical done. But in this section, I will be assuming that I have not started talking about tags. So officially, I will be looking at HTML tags, HTML tag. So that is the topic I will be looking at. And then from this topic, we shall be looking at some basic tags which are used for creating content in our website pages. So just like I said, we'll be looking at HTML, HTML tag mastery. That is the topic. HTML tags mastery. Now, let me explain why it is important for you as a learner to start from mastering tags, particularly the language we are talking about at the moment, HTML. Now, remember I told us yesterday that HTML is a markup language. It's a language that defines the shape, the structure of your website. And I also mentioned that this is done by using tags. And that is why we need to start by knowing what are tags. How do we define tags? So we can simply say what are HTML tags. That is the first thing we want to look at. So what do we mean by HTML tag? So HTML tags are the keyword surrounded by angle brackets, surrounded by angle brackets. So just as you can see here, let me reactivate it here. So any word that is enveloped in this angle bracket is referred to as what? Tags. Are you following? So whatever you see in
Yeah.
the angle bracket is referred to as what? HTML tag. Now, the knowledge of these tags is very important because these are like the building blocks which are used to add contents to your website pages. For example, if I want to create an image in my website, I need a tag to help me publish that. If I want to create articles or write-up in my website, I also need a tag. So for every content you wish to program in your website, you need to know the tag that is responsible for it. And that is the reason why the topic is HTML tags mastery. So we want to spend some time understanding these tags. And then after a while, we will now say, okay, now we understand two or three or few of these tags. Let us sit down and build a real website with these tags. So that is how we take it at Digital Z Hub. So we don't want to just dive into building a website without understanding what will be used to build the website. So the journey I am taking us at the moment is to understand the tags, okay? So that by the time we start building the website, we have already know what we need to build the website. So that is why I am focusing on HTML tags mastery in this section. So which means that the whole of this section is expected to teach us the functions of this structural or basic what? HTML tag. So we keep going up from basic to intermediate, from intermediate to what? Advanced. That is how you learn these tags. Okay, now I have defined what tags are. So in summary, tags are used by us as developer to create content. For example, if I may just check the front end of this website. So let's go to the front end and see if you have any content created. So as you can see, the front end is empty. We have not added any content. Okay, So what I'm saying is that, for example, if I want to display heading, let's say welcome to Digital Z Hub or about Digital Z. So I need a tag. So the question I will ask myself, for me to create heading, which tag do I need? So if I want to add an image to this website, it could be a product image. I need to also ask myself, which tag do I need to add the image? If I want to create a link that someone can click and then takes him or her to a different page, I need to ask myself, which tag do I need? If I want to publish a video on this page, let's say I'm building this website for a musical artist, I need to ask myself, which tag do I need to create? So for every content you publish or you wish to publish in your website, it requires using a tag to achieve it. Is that clear? Are you following? I want to know if you are
I
following.
got it.
Okay, good. So now
Yeah.
I want to create a heading. So let's start with the HTML heading tag. So I'm starting with HTML heading tag. HTML heading tag. So I want us to look at this set of tags. So by definition, we can say these tags, these tags are used, these tags are used to create headings. They are used to create headings. So that is the function of the HTML heading tag. So just like I said now, I want to publish welcome to Digital Z Hub, or I want to publish about Digital Z Hub. So I need one of the HTML heading tag because that is heading, under which I'm going to explain who who is Digital Z. Now, the HTML heading tag ranges from 1 to 6. In other words, it starts from H1, then to H6. So it ranges from H1 to H6. So that is the type of HTML heading tag we have. So it is within your prerogative for you to choose whether you want to use H1 or you want to use H2 or you want to use H3, depending on which one of them you want to use. Okay, so for example, if I want to declare the H1, I will just type H1 and then press enter. Okay, now let's quickly explain tag structure. So the tag in HTML, we have two categories of tags. We have the complete tag, and then we have the empty tag or self-closing tag. So the complete tag is a tag that has the opening section and the closing section. The tags that have the opening section and the closing section. Sorry. So we have the opening section. For example, the whole of this section specify that that is the end of that tag, while they specify the beginning or the opening section of the tag. So whatever content you write in between this and this, forms your content, what the user will see when they visit your website. So for example, I want them to say, welcome to Digitech Zale hub. So let's assume this is what I wanted to see. So if I go to the front end again, you will see that what I have been able to publish this particular heading. Okay. Now I can as well use H2 to do the same thing. So I can come here and say what H2 as well. And then if I want to display the same content, I can just highlight it, Control C to copy, and then paste it in here. So if I go to the front end, you will notice that one is smaller than the other. Okay, so I use two different heading tags to create the same content. So in other words, the difference between H1 and H2 is the size of the write-up they produce without interference of what? The CSS. Okay? Now, if I use H3, let's assume that I use H3 to display the same content. So if I go back to the front end, you will see that what? H3 is smaller than what? The H2. So definitely H6 is going to be the least. Then the highest is what? H1. Did you understand that? Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is how to use the heading tag.
Yeah, I got it.
Did you get it? Sorry, you're saying something. Hello.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, good. Now I just wanted you to understand the heading tag. What actually I want to program.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. So what exactly I want to program here is about us. About us. So I have programmed about us on the page. So I want to say something about Digital Z Hub. Now that requires another tag. So that is taking us to the second tag we want to learn tonight. So the second tag is what we call paragraph. Paragraph tag. Paragraph tag, which is denoted with this p tag. So just p tag. So the p tag is used to create multi-line tests. Okay, so it is used to create multi-line what? Text. So for example, if I want to explain, I want to say something about Digital Z, about us. So I'm expected to say something under it. So I'm going to use paragraph tag to explain Digital Z. Okay, so I can just come here and say, type just P and press enter, and that will give you the tag. Now, for the sake of time, I don't want to write now, but at the same time, I want to show us that there is an inbuilt text writer that you can actually use to debug, or maybe when you are trying to confirm if something is working, just like I am doing now. I want to say something about Digital Z, and I don't want to spend time writing the whole of it. Okay, now, but supposing, let me see if the network issue we were having yesterday has been rectified, and see if I can get some content directly from our website. So if I come here and I say www dot digitechz.com.ng. So let me see if the network issue is resolved. Okay, so we're still having that to be rectified very soon. So now, so let's assume that I just want to use the tests, the inbuilt test writer to create some write-up just for us to understand how the p tag work. So I can just say lorem, I can just say lorem, and then I'll simply do, I want it to create like 200 words for me. So without spacing, I'll simply type 200. Okay. Now I'll press enter. So what that particular function or lorem did is to help me to create random text just for an example. So let me go to the front end and see. So you can see that the lorem has helped me to generate random text, which I just want to use to explain how the paragraph tag work. Well, if I am building this website for a client or a customer, I am supposed to ask them for information about their business in soft copy, then I will just copy it and paste it. So what am I talking about? Let's say I say what about Digitech Deal Hub. Let me say I have this. So this is the website. So now let's assume that I try. Let me see. This we still have an issue. Let me see if I'm going to get some content. So I just want to show you. Okay, so we are still on Google. So now if I highlight this and then let's say I want to use this content, so I will just say copy. Now go back to my web page. So let's assume that I don't need the lorem text anymore. So I will just say p tag and then Control V. So you can see that if I have been given the write-up in soft copy, so I've been able to what? To paste it. So if you are collecting the profile, I would advise you collect it in soft copy. So once they send it to you in Word format or in any other text editor format, then you can easily copy and paste instead of you manually typing. So, but what we are learning right now is how do I use the paragraph tag? So you can see I created this with the heading tag and then this with the paragraph tag. Any question?
No, I got it.
Any question? So it's clear to you, right?
No,
Okay,
no question
okay,
so far.
okay, all right. Now let's quickly look at another tag.
I have no question so far.
Okay. So now let's look at another tag, which is let's look at. So I just want to look at 3 tags in this section. And then if the time permits us, we try and see how we can start styling them with CSS. So let's us quickly look at HTML image tag. HTML image tag. Now the image,
I can't hear you well now. I can't hear you well, please.
okay, can you hear me now? Let
I
me see.
can't, I can't hear you.
Okay, okay, let me see if I can change the network. Okay, can you hear me now? Is the network better now?
Hello.
Can you hear me? I needed to know if you can hear me.
Oh,
I want to know if you can hear me now. Can you hear me?
sorry?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So let's quickly proceed. Now, I was talking about the third tag we are looking at tonight, which is the image tag. So as I said, the image tag is used.
No, gone. Your network is not good.
You can still hear me? You cannot still hear me? Okay, so let me see. So I said the image tag is used to add images to web pages. It's used to add images to web pages. So like I have explained before, if I want to display a picture in my website, so I'll need the image tag. So let's quickly look at the syntax of the image tag. So you just type img, make sure that the pictures you want to reference will have been stored to your image folder like we learned yesterday. So you select this. Now, we have to talk about HTML attributes. So there is what we call HTML attributes. So they're all called HTML attributes. HTML attributes. So what do we mean by HTML attributes? So HTML attributes are HTML properties that provide additional info about HTML elements. Okay, so we refer to that as attribute. Now, why do I want us to understand the concept of attribute? Because as soon as I activated the image tag, you notice that it brought out what? This and what? This as an attribute. But we do not have that in the case of H1 and in the case of what? P tag. So there are some of these attributes that will be activated by default, while there are some that you will have to what? Activate yourself. Okay. Now, I want to explain why did the image tag brought this particular attribute. So the source attribute explain the address, the location, the paths where the picture you want to display in your website is coming from. That is the meaning of this source attribute. Okay? Now, how do I call the picture? So I want to call this particular picture phone 1. So I want to use this image tag to display it to my visitor. So I will have to go inside the attribute value because an attribute has two sections. The value section, which is separated with the operator, the assignment operator. So that single equals to in programming means assignment. It does not mean equality. Okay, so it's just like the pipe that is piping value into what? The attribute called what? Source. So what I will simply do is that I am going to reference the picture with a relative method, which means that I will just make sure that my cursor is blinking inside the attribute value quotation, and then on your keyboard you press the forward slash like this. Okay, so that will automatically call out all your directory, everything you have inside the root folder. Once you put that forward slash, it brings them out. Now you have already know where the picture you are looking for is. So I'm looking for the picture here. I'll click here and then I'll select what? The picture I want. So if I go to the front end, you will notice that what? You have already what? Programmed the picture. Exactly. Do you understand it?
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I understood.
Okay, so now I want to publish another picture. So I will have to what? Also type another IMG and then click here, go in here, /, go to your image folder, and then I pick two. Then I'll check my front end. Then I have the picture here as well. Okay, now let me talk about the second attribute, which is alt. So the alt represents alternative text, which means that in a case whereby the tag could not display the picture, what should the user see as an alternative to that picture? So you can say, okay, if the image is not able to display, the user should see what? Photo. Okay? Now, it is only when the picture could not be called from the address or the location, that is when it will display what? The alternative text. So for example, let me just remove the G just to make sure that the picture does not display. Then if I go back to the front end, you see that what I am seeing is the alternative word text. So when somebody visits this website, he or she will know that, okay, what I am supposed to see here should be what? Picture instead of just leaving it blank. Exactly. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me bring
Got
it back and then I have it.
it.
So now it's time for your classwork. So you are going to update your website to this. So you are going to share your screen. You are going to create about us
Got it.
and this is something.
But,
Okay. Hello.
but first, I'd like to ask you something.
Sorry, I didn't get you. Can you repeat what you just
Can
said?
you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, there is something I didn't understand there.
Okay. Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, let's go back to the
Okay.
as you said, I remember when we're creating this about section here,
Okay.
you said that here we have H1 and H1 here, and this tag here is the first one, and we have this one close, okay?
Okay.
So what about here in image? Why don't we close here?
Which of this one? Okay, good. So the image tag is an empty tag. It does not have closing section. Okay.
Okay.
So that is how it's programmed because that is why we are getting the content through this. So,
Okay.
we enable you to share your screen now, and then I want you to get to where I am before we look at some basic styling with the CSS. So you can share your screen.
Okay. Is web group. It's not coming. What is going on?
Which one? Which one is not coming? The image. Yeah, click on the, yeah, where is your file? No, click on that file explorer icon where you have those two files. The first icon before the search.
Okay. No folder opened. Okay.
Where is
Folder
your folder?
open.
Where is your folder? Where is your project folder? Remember we said you have to start by calling in your project folder into your development environment. Have you done that? So you have to go back to file. Okay, good.
I got it.
Now, I want you to do something. Now go back to click on file so that you can program your IDE on autosave. Click on file before edit, file
File.
before edit, file before edit. Yes, then scroll down and click on autosave. There is an option called autosave so that as you work, your work will be saved automatically to enable you to save it.
Okay.
Good. All right, so now you can continue.
Okay.
I
Going
take note
to.
K for KM for welcome.
Sorry?
We have someone else that just joined us. Techno KM for welcome. I didn't
No.
confirm it. So continue.
Okay. I'm gonna create a paragraph now. I'm gonna create a paragraph and say Zabi uh, we all go to follow look devices and serve them tools to our followers. Okay, now we are going to create an image. IMG enter. Going to seek for them we made and the first image item one start one then here you can see follow them and the second image. Then directions the second image. And for this, follows. Okay, let's look. Awesome. Got it.
All right. All right. All right. So you can now share your screen now. Let's continue. Let's continue.
Okay.
All right. So now we want to look at, remember, I told us that out of the three front-end languages, such as the HTML, the CSS, and JavaScript, we will be learning HTML and CSS concurrently. Okay, so we are learning both of them together. So at some point, we will master some tags, and then we will now go back to CSS, come back to tag, and then go back to CSS. So once we are done with HTML and CSS, before we focus on JavaScript, before we go for the back end. Now, let's quickly look at introduction to CSS. Introduction to CSS. Now, if you look at what we have done so far, we have been able to publish three different contents using three different tags as the building block. So we created this text with H1 tag, which falls under heading tag. And then we developed this with paragraph tag. And then these two pictures with what? Image tag. So remember, I told you from beginning in yesterday's section that HTML is the one that creates the content, while the CSS is the one that decorates, is the one that style the content. Now, if I ask you now, you will not agree with me that if somebody pay you 600,000 to build a website, you give somebody something like this. This is not fine. Number one, these pictures, they are not of the same height. You can see it. They are not properly arranged. And this text is not also well presented. Likewise, this. And then you can see that you have a lot of empty space everywhere. So the whole of this content are not properly placed or centralized. So therefore, you need CSS to help you determine how this content are arranged and colored or presented to the users. Exactly. So that is the reason why we
Yeah.
are bringing CSS. So let me start with what is the full meaning of CSS. So yesterday I only paraphrased, but here I want to explain it in detail. So what is or let's say, yeah, what is CSS? So CSS is cascade, cascade, style, cascade style sheet. So this is the full meaning of what? CSS. Like I told us in yesterday's section, I said it is a styling language. Though HTML and CSS are not core programming language. Okay? The only core programming language you have in front-end development is JavaScript, while the back end you have the PHP, okay, and probably the what? The MySQL. Now, we should know that CSS is a styling language. It is used to beautify those content. For example, the about us, the paragraph text, the pictures we just coded. So the role of CSS is to beautify them. Okay. Now, looking at it from that perspective, um, let's talk about how do we style? How do we style uh, this HTML content? For example, I want to focus on this particular content. I want to enhance. I want to redesign the appearance of About Us. Okay. Now, how do I select it? That will not take us to methods of adding CSS. So let me just rephrase it as addition, CSS addition methods. CSS addition method. So there are three ways we can actually communicate CSS with our HTML element. In other words, there are three ways you can use CSS to style this particular information. So the first method is what we call inline CSS. And then we have the second method, which is called internal CSS. And then the last method is called external CSS. So as a professional developer, you are to consider the best practice. Are you with me? Let me know if you are still hearing me clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, so the professional practice is that you either use the internal CSS or you use the external CSS. Okay, now let me start with the internal CSS. So the internal CSS, this is where, or this is when you write both CSS and HTML code in same line. That is why it is called what? Inline. That is why it is called inline. Are you following? Let me get a response to know if you are with me. Okay, so that is why it is called the inline. Now, for example, let's practicalize it. I want to give this particular text red. I want to change it from black to red. And I want to change it from small letter to capital letter. And I want to also move it to the center of the page. Okay, so how do I achieve that with my CSS? Using the inline. Remember I said the inline is where you are writing both the HTML and the CSS code on the same line. So now, remember I told us that every HTML tag has an opening section, and then few of them does not have the closing section. But definitely every tag, we have the opening section. Now, you go inside the opening section of that particular element you want to style, and then you type style because you are using inline. So you can see that the moment you type style, you have automatically communicated CSS. So you have automatically involved or activated the presence of CSS in this same HTML code. Now, when you are working with CSS, there is a syntax you need to follow. For example, we have what we call the HTML selector. So your HTML, for example, let me see if I can explain it here. Now, because you are dealing with inline, there might not be issue of identifying which element you are actually what? Styling, because you are already writing the CSS inside the HTML element. So the issue of identification is no longer a priority. Okay? Now, when you are speaking CSS, you talk about properties and value. And then when you are speaking HTML, you use words like tags and attribute. So now which property do we want to use to change the color? So the name of the property is called color. So once you type color, it brings it out, and then it will ask you to choose your color. So it's either you choose your color by name, or you choose it by RGBA, or you choose it by hexadecimal. But for now, I'm going to stick to choosing or selecting color by their names. Probably in the next class, I will start teaching us how you can use RGBA to calculate your color. So now I can just say red, and then I click. Then if I go back to the front end, you will see that what we have been able to change the write-up color from black to what? Red. Is that clear?
Got it.
Okay. Now, we are still developing the user interface, okay, of our web page. And remember, I told us that the what we call UI and US, that is user interface and user experience. Every developer should always be conscious of how the website, the kind of experience it will give to what? To the visitor. Now, I'll ask myself again, yes, we have been able to change it to red, but the case is not professional. This A should be capital letter, okay? While the U should be capital letter, and then other write-offs should be small letter. That is called capitalized KC. So how do I do that with the same CSS? Now, remember, this is still inline CSS that I'm using. So I am going to switch from inline to internal. Probably in the next class, I will teach us how to use the external. So I want to achieve that same thing that I did, but with different method of CSS, not inline. So I want to use internal. So internal is when you have or you write both CSS and HTML in same file, or page, but separated. Okay. Now, if you check this one, the initial one I wrote, both the CSS and the HTML were in the same line. But now, when we say internal, we are going to write the CSS and the HTML in the same file, but separated. Now, this is the logic. So what you do is that if you want to apply the internal way of styling your element, you go to the head section, you go to the top, then you come in here to space, and then you type what? Style tag, and then you open it up. So which means that what? All your CSS code here, okay? And while your HTML continue in the body section. Now, in this case, I'm going to introduce what we call HTML selector. HTML selector. So which means that now that the HTML element you want to talk to is separated from where you are writing your CSS, there should be a way of the code you are writing here identifying which of the elements is to be affected. So that is what we call CSS HTML selector. Now, I'm going to use the name of the tag H1. So I will come here and say H1, which means that what? Between the paragraph tag and the image, the element you are currently talking to is what? The H1. Now, you will now use your shift and your coiling bracket like this. Your coiling bracket, you open this coiling bracket. So this coiling bracket is used to group your CSS properties together. Okay, so now that you understand how it works, so the next thing I am going to do is to call the property. For example, if I say color and I do red, so if I go back to the front end, you can see that what I am still communicating what my CSS to that very element. Okay, now if I want to change the case, I will say test align. So sorry, test transform. So you have to know all these property and what they are designed to do. So I'll select what? Capitalize. So if I go back to the front end, you will see that what? Only the first letter of each word in capital letter, while the rest is small letter. So one more thing I want to achieve before I allow you to work is that I want to move the whole of this to the center here. I want to move it to the center. So which CSS property will do that for me? So I'll go back there. So I should know that as a professional, that is what? Test align. Test align. Then I'll choose what? Center. So if I go back to the front end, you see that what? I have been able to what? To move the text to the center. So one more thing I want to do before I allow you to implement is I want some space between the character. I want to stretch the A and B. I want to create some internal space. After all, there's still enough space here. There's enough space here. So I want to stretch it a little. So that will also suggest another CSS property. That will suggest another CSS property. So what I will simply do is to come here and simply say letter spacing, letter spacing. So I will just give, let's say 10 PS and then check the appearance. By the time you come back, you see that what? The letters have space in between them. Is that taken?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to try it also before I continue. So what you are going to do now, you are going to use the internal CSS method where you have to declare your style in your head and then you call this same property before I proceed. You can try it now. Then after some time, I will ask,
Okay, please, sorry, I'd like to ask something here.
okay,
Why is it necessary? Yeah, test transform, capitalize. Why is it necessary? Because when I see there, you were using that one for to change that A. Why didn't you just write a capital A?
capital letter A. Okay, let me go to the front end if I'm getting you right.
Yeah,
This
I
one,
mean
right?
that one A
This one.
about, yeah.
Yes, you can actually type it manually. While you are typing it, you can come to, that is from your HTML section. You can actually type it, but we are learning how if I do not type it manually here. You know, I can come here and do it like this, okay? So
Okay,
I just want to show you how this CSS properties works, okay? Because we are learning
okay,
CSS here. So if the words are
okay,
much, going to each of them, changing them to capital letter is going to be stressful.
okay.
So kindly replicate the same thing before I proceed quickly. So just
So,
I'm going to leave my code on the screen. Then when you are through, before I proceed, I will ask you to share your screen for me to see it before I proceed. So I'm going to leave it on screen. So just continue working. Just give me the same thing I just did.
okay. To head, style, column. H, column. Paste, paste, transform, capitalize, paste, align, control, paste, space, spacing. Hello?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I think I'm down.
Okay, so let me see it. So share your screen. Let me just see it.
Oh, I close it. Oh, yeah.
I just want to see the front end. Let me see the front end.
Yeah, it's like this.
All right, that is good one. That is good one. Okay, so I'll share your screen. Let's see. Let's still do some basic styling. Do some basic styling. So in our next class, we are going to uh, go a little bit more advanced, but because we are just starting, trying to look at them one after the other. So now, if you look at the front end, you will see that we have only spoken to this. Now, supposing you have another H1 in this page, you're going to see a conflict now as the reason why you shouldn't, or it is not professional for you to reference or to select HTML by their tag name. So for example, anywhere within this file, I use or reuse H1 probably to type different heading. Let's say what? Welcome.
Should I stop sharing?
Yes, stop sharing so that you can see my screen. So welcome to uh, web development training. Web development training. Okay. So now, if I go to the front end, what did you observe? What did you observe?
Oh, it's
You can see, you will notice that I have not styled this, but it took the appearance of this. Why? Because I selected the same HTML. Look at it in your CSS here. Is this H1? So anywhere you use H1 in this file is going to be giving it what? Or disappearance. But meanwhile, I don't want this particular one to have the same red. I want it to be blue. I don't want also letter spacing. So what do I do in this case? This is where you introduce the concept of classing. Okay, so I'll come in here. I'll simply say class in order to differentiate it. I'll say this one is H2. Now, in my CSS, if I want to talk to only this particular one without affecting this, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to select it with the class name. So just to use comment here, I'll say styling the HTML element with the class name, H2. Okay, now whenever you are selecting class elements, you have to start with dots, then followed by the name of that class, which is what? H2, before your declaration block. Now, I will say this one color should be, let's say, blue. Okay, so if I go to the front end now and check, you see that what? They are having two different colors. So that class is a concept that uniquely identify or differentiate one element from the other. Is that clear?
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Now, I just want you to know how to class. So now I want to talk to this particular p tag. I want to style it a little. So what I'm going to do is come back to my CSS section. I'll use comment, styling the p tag. Now, to avoid that same mistake that we did, I am going to class the p tag so that in case I use p tag anywhere within this file, it does not automatically take the appearance of this particular p tag. So I'll go in here and say class. I'll say this one is p1. Okay. Now in my CSS, I am going to change it from styling the p tag with the class name, p1. So like I told you, whenever you are selecting class element, you start with dots, followed by the name of the class, which is p1, then followed by the declaration block. And then you can say font. What I want to do is I want to increase the size. So I will say font size. So I could just say 20 ps, which means pixels. So let me check the size. Okay, so it's a little bit what? Bigger. Now, another thing I want to do is that you will notice that the space here is too small. So I want to push this a little so that it can take some space here. Okay, so that is the next thing I want to do. So how do I achieve that? How do I achieve that space? That is what we call margin space, the space from the outside. So I want us to always know that every HTML element has borders around it. So you can say there is an invisible what? Border. So everything is in a box. Indirectly, everything is in a box. Sorry for my shape. Now, the space from the outside between these, so we are saying that this is also in a box. So every HTML element, they are assumed to be wrapped in a box. So the space between the first one and the next one from the outside is called margin. So this is called margin. Now, the space between this from the inside, between the content and the borders around them, they are called padding. So we refer to that as padding. Okay, so now that we understand it, see what I'm going to do. Now, the challenge is that this particular information is too close to the edge. So I want to push it a little to go inside so that it can take some space here. So that means that I'm going to push it from the left-hand side. So that is margin left. So I'm going to use margin left. So how do I communicate that? So I'll go back to my CSS page. So I'll come here and say margin left. So I'll say, okay, I'll move by 20 ps. So if I go back to the front end, you will see that what? You have moved it. So there's now a reasonable space. Okay. Now, the next thing is I want to, let's say I want to break this. I want to turn it to two lines. So from organization, we go to the next line. So I'll do what we call, that is from the HTML structure. So you go to where you type it, trace where you have that organization, trace where you have that organization. Where is it here? This is the organization. So from here, add another tag called break. So you write this, you put BR, and then close it. So once you add this break, what it will do is to take this line to the next line. So let's go back to the front end and check. So you can see that what you have forced from that organization to the next line. Now that I have moved it here, I would like it to be positioned at the center. I don't like, it is not professional, you leave empty spaces. It shows that you lack content. Okay, so you must find a way of balancing it in order to have a better what user friendly interface. Okay, so how am I going to achieve that? Now I'm going to shift it to the middle. Okay, so since it's a block element, I'll do that from the CSS section. So I'll do that from my CSS. So what I'm going to do, this is where we are speaking to it. So now I'll come here. Let me just add border in order for me to see the boundary. So I'll say border, let's say 1 ps. Then the type of line should be solid, and then the color should be red, just to know the length of the Peter. Now, if you come here, you can see that what is actually covering the entire width because it is a block element. So what I'm going to do, why did I have to see the borderline? So this is to confirm that what almost every content are wrapped in what? In boxes. Okay. And it is only when you activate the border line that you know that, just like we just did now. Now, if I am pushing this to the center of the page, it's not going to move because there's no space for it to move. So I have to first of all reduce this to here, or maybe to like 50% or 60%. Then I can now move it to the center using margin auto. So how do I do that? I'll go back to my CSS. So I'll simply come here and do something like width. Width, since it's currently 100%, I'll say it should reduce to probably 60%. So if I go back to the front end, you will see that what you have reduced it. Now I want to move everything to the center of the page. So I'll simply do margin, not margin left, not margin right. So I'm going to quickly disable this since I'm targeting the center. I'll comment it out temporarily. So I will just come here and say just margin without you saying left or right, and then you select what? Auto. Then if I go back to the front end, you see that what? I have been able to what? Centralize it. Did you understand that? Is that clear?
Yeah, I'm getting it.
Okay, so now,
But I have a question, please.
okay, your question.
Can I can we go back to
Okay, to the code. Okay,
the code, please?
okay.
Yeah, my question is here. How do I know the size of 20 pixel?
Yeah, as a learner, you have to be doing trial by error to know, so that once you try it once and the next time you need it, you have already know the proportion of that 20 PS. So as a learner, you have to try. When you try 20, you go and observe it. You try 30, you go and observe it. So the next time you are coding, you have already know the space 20 PS generates. Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question?
And about here the border, I don't understand what you have done there. One pixel, solid, and
Good,
red at the
good.
same time.
Now, yes, this is the thickness of the line. Why this is the line type? Solid means smooth line. I can change it to dotted. If I put it dotted, if you go back now, you see what? Dotted line. So that place of
Okay.
solid define the type of line you want. Okay. Then of course, the color is explanatory. This is where you define the color of the line. Exactly. Just like you are calling three properties at the same time. One is the thickness, the border line thickness. The other one is the type of line. And then the last one is the color of that line. Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so now I don't really need the borderline because that is not going to give me a user-friendly interface. So I only activated the borderline so that we can know when we resize it from 100% width to a lesser width. So now that I've gotten what I'm looking for, so I will just comment this out. I don't need it. In case I want to come back to it, I will remove it. So I prefer it like this. It look more professional. Do you understand it?
Okay, I got it.
Good. So now I will just take uh, let me give you some time. Okay, you take it as an assignment so that we can end the class on time. So I want to style these images. Okay, I want to style these pictures. One, I want to bring them to the center. I want to change their size. I would like to make one a cycle while the other one remain what? Rectangle. So how do I do that? I am going to start by classing them. I'm going to start by classing the two pictures because at some point I'll be speaking to them separately. So I will just come here and say this one is IMG1. Why this another class IMG2. Okay, so once this is done, then I will go to my CSS. I'll go to my CSS. So if I want to talk to them, individually, I will use their class name. If I want to talk to both of them at once, I will use the tag name because they both have IMG. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. I want to quickly make two of them the same size. So which means that the size affects both of them. So in my CSS section, I'll simply do styling all the images at once. At once. So now I'm going to come here and do something like this. Are you following? So I'm going to come here and simply say IMG. I'm not using the class because the width is expected to affect both of them. So I'll do something like this. I'll say width. Both of them should be 500 PS. While the height should be probably 350 PS. Now, if I go to the front end now, you see that what the two picture have taken what the same size. Are you with me?
Okay, getting it.
Good. Now, I want some space here. I want this picture is touching this text. So I want to push both of them down. I want to push them down. There should be margin at the top. Okay. So what I'm going to do is to simply say margin top. So I'll say what? Margin top. Then give me space of 20 ps. So if I go back to the front end now, you can see that what? There is now what? Space here. Okay, so you must always give space. Don't let your component or your element to be touching each other. There should be looking room. Okay, is that understood?
Yeah, got it.
Now, finally, before we stop, because you're going to take it as an assignment, is that I want this picture to be a circular image. Cycle. Only this one. Why this one will remain like this? So how do I achieve that? It means that I'm going to use the class to talk to this, because if I use img, it will affect both of them. Okay, so that is the reason why I class them. And I said one is img1, the other one is what? img2. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this is the one I want to make cycle. So I will quickly reference it in my CSS. So let me use comment also. You can see the way I'm using comment to explain what I am doing. So styling only the image width plus img2. So just to indicate that is the only picture I am styling at the moment. Now, being a class element, I have to start with dots and say what? img2. Then the property for making a container a cycle is called border radius. Okay, it's called border radius. So you simply say 50% of its current width. So once you call it like this and then you go back, you see that what is now what? A cycle. So this is how to create a circular what? Image. Is that clear?
I got it.
Okay, so this is where we stop. So your assignment is to build a page like this. Okay, let your about us be at the middle, and then let's some write-up also be at the middle, and then the picture also, if possible, you can shift it. So if I want to push this one a little, so that is img1, and then I will say margin left and push it a little so that everything can be at the center. So this is what I'll simply do. So I'll just come here and say dot img1, and then I will do something like margin left, push it by 20 ps. So if I go back to the front end, you see that what? You have pushed everything a little to the center. All right. So if there's no question, we draw the curtain here. Techno KM4, we've not been able to hear from you. Hope you are following. Techno KM4, were you following? Okay, so let's assume that you are following. All right, so good night. So see you in the next class. I'm expecting you to build your web page to be beautiful more than this. You have enough time to do it well.
Good, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.